Evening, Mayor, City Council, Mr. Carlisle, staff, and all the residents of Sebastian. My name is Bart Getchins, 9001 West Melbourne, and I am the External Affairs Manager for Indian River and Brevard counties. I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues this evening. We have Michael Fetto, who will be making a presentation later, Kurt Percy, Jeffrey Stanton, Ron Edgecombe, and of course, Nancy Davies, who recently changed her name from Davies to Flickinger, and she is retiring, unfortunately. She served as your account manager for many years, so she has just provided a tremendous service to this city, so, and it's been a great partnership. Tonight we will present to you our Storm Secure Underground project, but before we begin, I want to apologize to the council, Mr. Carlisle, and the residents of Sebastian. In our excitement and exuberance regarding this project, we failed to notify you in advance of this project. Although unintentional, we apologize for any anxiety this may have caused. But this project will align with your vision, which is to make the city of Sebastian an even greater place in which to work and to live. And a shout out to Andrea Coy. I know she has told me the last couple hurricane restorations, she's been one of the last people to be restored in the city of Sebastian, and she has been. So I'm really hoping this project works out well for her. So now I'm going to turn it over to Michael to give you the details of this project. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having me today. So, my name is Mike Fetto. I'm a manager with the Storm Secure Underground program, and I'm here to just discuss the details of that program and how it's going to affect the residents in Sebastian. So our underground program is a pilot program through FPL, and we're in the third year of the pilot. And the intention of the program is to convert neighborhood power lines from overhead to underground. Underground lines we know perform much better during major storm events like hurricanes compared to overhead lines, and that's the goal of this program. So with FPL, we have 75,000 miles of power lines. Overhead power lines are 60% of those, and underground power lines are 40%. So we're really focused on that remaining 60%. It's a huge undertaking for us, but our goal through this program is to convert the lines of every neighborhood throughout our service territory to underground. We expect this to be about a 30-year program, all said and done, and we're in the very early stages, about year 3 right now. So what we're really focused on in this program are the neighborhood power lines, the picture on the left. Our concern right now is not the lines that you'll see on your major roads and highways that we call feeder lines. Those will remain overhead for the time being. Our focus is on the neighborhood lines throughout the community. But overall, this is all part of our hardening plan, where we are strengthening our infrastructure to better withstand hurricane force winds. So that's what you've seen throughout the years of concrete poles, of new equipment, of larger structures that will not come down in hurricanes. And that's great for those main lines. But again, our next approach is going into the neighborhoods, and we don't want to put those big concrete poles in neighborhoods. So rather than going behind your house and putting a big concrete pole that will withstand a hurricane force wind, we're going underground. So that's where this program comes in. And the biggest reason for that is vegetation. We found out throughout the major storms that we saw in the last few years, 17 and 18 primarily, Hurricanes Matthew and Irma, most of our outages, the vast majority were caused by vegetation. Trees that we trim back on a regular basis, but that are going to continue to grow into the power lines and that we're really never going to get a handle on. So underground power lines perform about 50% better just in the day-to-day operations, up to 80% better during a major storm event because of those trees and those vegetation. So as I said, this is about year 3. We started in 2018. This is our third year of construction. What we're trying to do is work with communities and neighborhoods once the projects are identified and help you understand why are we out here and what is it going to do to your neighborhood? What is our approach? So that's what brought us here today. We have a certain criteria, which I think is important to understand. We don't pick and choose necessarily where we're going to be. We base this purely on data. How did these lines historically perform in the most recent hurricanes, how they performed day to day over the past 10 years, how many of their outages are due to vegetation versus other things. And that's how we've ranked every single line in our system as far as where it ranks as part of the Storm Secure Underground program. So these lines that we're doing this year rank very highly, meaning reliability has been on average poor or poorer than other areas. So these lines that we're focusing on in Sebastian rank pretty high on our approach as far as reliability goes, and that's why we're out here early. So this is the project that we have. 143 neighborhood power lines that we're approaching this year and next year. 76.5 miles of lines, more than 6,300 FPL customers. This is by far our largest project throughout our entire service territory, so throughout the state that FPL covers. By far our largest project as part of the Storm Secure Underground program. We've selected 2 feeders, 2 main lines of which we're going to underground every single neighborhood line that are fed by those 2 main lines. This is not all of Sebastian. There are several feeders that feed Sebastian and its surrounding areas. We are not doing all of them. We have selected the 2 feeders that meet that threshold of reliability based on our data, and we're approaching those. So we've given a map. I don't expect anybody to really be able to tell whether you're part of it or not. You can see that there are big areas that are part of it and that there are some that are not. And we'll be able to provide more detail moving forward on whether, which communities or which streets are going to be involved. But we're committed to communicating throughout the project. Obtaining easements and permits. Many of your residents have seen our people. We are going around neighborhoods, we're calling, we're emailing, we're asking for an easement to place transformers on our, in order to feed underground power. So we need those easements in order for the projects to move forward. On average, every 5 to 8 customers will be asked for an easement to place a transformer on their property. We're also going to do our best to communicate scheduling with the city, with the community. Right now, our plan is our design and our customer outreach piece, our engineering customer outreach piece is 2021, and we plan to start construction in 2022, hopefully January. Our construction plan will be 12 to 18 months. So we expect to bury those 76.5 miles of power lines mostly in 2022, and then the remainder in 2023. We're going to stay. We have our entire team here. We're going to stay in communication throughout the project. We're committed to site restoration. Everybody's property that we touch, when we leave, it'll be in just as good a condition as we started. So, our primary method of doing that is directional bore. All of the conduit, all of the underground pipe associated with this project will be installed by directional bore. We are not trenching across entire properties. We're not trenching in anybody's backyards. Our directional bore process allows us to dig a hole or an access pit, usually roughly 3 feet wide, and from there we'll punch the conduit back to the backyard or across the property, so that yes, there will be some sod replacement, yes, there will be some property disturbance, but it will not be trenching across the entire properties. These are the types of equipment we'll see. I mentioned the easements. The easements are so that we can place the pad mount transformers at the fronts of the property, and that's what feeds power to each of the homes. In most cases, their existing power lines are in the back. We'll be removing those power lines from the backyards, replacing underground lines in the front with these transformers, and that's why we're seeking these easements from the customers. The other thing you'll see is handholds. These are just junction boxes where we make our electrical connections throughout. They sit at grade, so they don't sit above your grass line the way the transformers do. We don't require an easement for those. They'll be placed in the road right of way. The other impact to the customer is this junction box. We're going to be installing a box on the wall of the home. That's the method by which we convert your service at your house from overhead to underground. We're not touching your existing meter can, which is customer owned. We're simply moving the line that attaches at the roof of your home to underground. To do that, we're going to install a junction box. For each of those junction boxes, we're asking the customers to sign an agreement that gives FPL permission, yes, you can install this junction box on the wall of my home so you can convert my power to underground. This is a sketch of what our intention is, what the project should look like beginning to end. On the left, you'll see, you have the overhead power lines in the backyards. You have trees that are being trimmed, make the trees a little bit lopsided just to kind of get them out of our lines. And you have the overhead lines that feed the house. By the end of the project, you'll see possibly a transformer in front of the home. You'll see the junction box on the house, and you'll see that the power lines in the back of the house are removed. But what will remain are the poles for now that also carry the telecommunication lines, the AT&T and Comcast lines. Those companies, as of now, are not going underground with us. So until they make the decision to do so, those lines are going to remain, and those poles are going to remain. What we do is we cut the pole right above the AT&T line, so that the pole loses 5 to 10 feet of height, but it's still back there. This is the kind of equipment you'll see in the neighborhoods. That's the directional boring rig on the left. It's about a pickup truck size piece of equipment, but that's how we get our lines underground. We park them primarily in the right-of-way or on the street when needed. We do not park them in a driveway or on your actual property. And then the other thing you'll see is big cable reels. That's just our way of getting the pipe and our electrical wires underground. Those are the two primary pieces of equipment you'll see aside from the trucks that our crews drive. And then I just added a couple photos of completed projects we've done throughout the state. We've completed roughly 120 miles statewide of projects. As I said, we're going to be doing 76 miles in Sebastian alone. So this is a huge undertaking for us. But in a typical neighborhood, you'll see a transformer every few houses on the left there. You shouldn't see any obvious disturbance to the rest of your property. You shouldn't see, we'll replace any sod that we damage. You shouldn't see any lines from trenching. There is no trenching. And, any other construction impact to your property will be addressed at the time of construction by our crews. I've included a few other pictures as well. But with that said, that's all the presentation I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions, council? No?
Yeah, I think it's a great project for the city of Sebastian, and I'm very excited about it. Love to see all the lines gone. I mean, from an aesthetic purpose, but it's really good, and that FPL is going forward with Sebastian. I'm real excited about that because obviously, the hurricane situation and the outages that we've had up here have been fairly extensive. So yeah, good stuff. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, and we're excited as well. And as I said, the aesthetic improvement by not having the lines there, I think is secondary for us. This effort is purely for reliability purposes. We want to get through a hurricane without losing power. You still might lose power with underground, but the hope and the history tells us that it will be a lot shorter time period when that does occur.
Well, the kinds of contacts that we've gotten in the past on this have been like, we've been contacted by a subcontractor, is it legitimate, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could get a copy of your map that shows the areas you're going to be impacted that's large enough that someone in the city can look at it, then we can, if someone calls, we can respond, yes, your street is in this test project, or no,
Yep.
it's not. So
What we can do is we can provide all the maps of our proposed projects, and we can also provide our whole team's contact information,
Okay.
so that as soon as you do receive a question, you can obviously respond to them, but then flip it to us, and we'll make sure that they get an answer. We
So
do
you can
hire
get that-
contractors to do our work.
Yeah.
So we have a couple working in
We
the
can
area.
get that Paul.
But we'll get Paul all that
yeah.
information, correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
that'll
sir.
work good. Okay.
Mayor Dodd, I have one question actually. So you say you need the easements to put the transformers. Are you having issues with that? Is it difficult to have the people that are willing to allow those transformers in the front yards, or?
No, I wouldn't say we're having issues. We've been pretty successful. Roughly speaking, we need about 1,600 easements for all these projects. And as year to date, we've received more than 850.
Okay, great.
So we've had good progress. Not everyone is going to agree to this, and we understand that. What we do if one particular homeowner, doesn't want to give us the easement or just is skeptical in general, we have a design and engineering team that we're going to have to shift things around. Our goal is to get the project done. So if that means we need to move a proposed transformer location elsewhere to somebody that's willing to have it, then we'll do that. It's a challenge for us. It's almost, we're completing a puzzle constantly. But our goal is to get the project to move forward and find people that suits our proposal where we can place a transformer.
And the junction box on the house, is that required that the homeowner provide you with the right to do that? Because
If, is it required? No. From a commission level, from a FPL level, no. We want to have those agreements, and part of that agreement is just our way of communicating with the customer and giving them all the information we can. If we have a particular customer who is just adamant that they do not want us touching anything, then we won't, and we'll leave the service overhead. We hope to minimize that by a long shot, and we convert more than 99% of those services. If it's a matter of we just couldn't make contact with this customer, they never told us no, but they never told us anything, we'll probably go ahead and once we get to construction, we'll go ahead and convert that service.
And so then maybe it would be beneficial for the city of Sebastian to put on our Channel 25 slides encouraging the residents to go ahead and allow for these things to take place.
Yeah,
Because, you
we can
know,
actually run this presentation on Channel 25,
Right.
so they can step through the slides that were presented to us this evening
yeah,
and go through that.
sounds great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
I have one thing.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple residents approach me about a week ago about that, and I'm glad to hear about the junction boxes being put in the yards. They said they don't want a junction box in their yard. So you all don't have a preset plan saying we're gonna put on this house or that house. You can actually move them around and say, if this customer doesn't want it, then we can move it down the block a little bit. Is
That's
that
right, to a
correct?
degree. I mean, there's an engineering background of all of this. But yes, we have flexibility there. FPL wants to get this project completed, and we're not gonna force a transformer on someone. We need an easement to put that transformer there, and we can't force the customer to give us that easement. So we need to do what we can to make a design, an engineered design that works for us. So yes, we have some flexibility there, and it's something that Jeff Stanton and his team work on every day.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.